The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
All hail to our school, the school we love so well. Loyal we are to our school. We strive to do our best wherever we may go. Loyal we are to our school. Our color of gold means to us ambition. Purple the tie that binds our hearts. Then hail to our school, the school we love so well. Always is Coleman High.
Coleman High School song arranged by Julio Hansen. The high school song of Coleman High School, Greenville, Mississippi. Welcome to the Qumran Report. May the peace and blessings of the life-giving creative spirit be upon you and upon your family. My name is Melvin Ishmael Johnson, coming at you live from Morris Media Studio. Our call-in number is 1-323-293-3375. My special in-studio guest, Rashad Waleed Muhammad. Now, this week on the Qumran Report, we will talk about Coleman High School and the Coleman Report. Coleman High School, named after Lizzie Coleman, who laid the foundation for the educations of African Americans in Greenville and in the Mississippi Delta. God willing, some of the topics we will discuss today is a new play about Coleman High, about the history of Coleman High entitled Bright New Day, the Coleman Report, a very important report about the equality of education in the United States of America. We're going to talk about the miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson, Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James, and we're going to talk about a new model for educating our communities called the Nasana model. Now, I just finished writing a play with my brother James Johnson Jr. entitled Bright New Day, and it's about the history of Coleman High School, and I want to read a few sections from it, taken from the name. The name comes from a statement by the longtime principal of Coleman High School, Mr. G.P. Maddox, and he said, "It is here at last, the long-talked-of bright new day. Since this new day presents the greatest educational challenge of all time, I hope each individual will accept the challenge and use it as a means of solving many of the perplexing problems that arises each day." Now, I want to get into just a little of the history, talking about the founding of Coleman High School, and I want to read a section. Real quick, and then we're going to move to our first call. This is by who Coleman High School is named after, Lizzie Coleman. And she said, "My name is Elizabeth William Coleman. Everybody call me Lizzie. I was born, raised, and lived all of my life in Mississippi. Did you know that the name Mississippi comes from the Choctaw word that means older than time? The first public school for our people in Greenville, Mississippi was built near the riverfront. It was called the number 2 school. Of course, white folks had the number 1 school on the corner of Walnut and Main. White folks always think they got to be number 1. Later on, the number 2 school would move to Nelson Street and then to Cleveland Street. At that time, we only went to the 8th grade. If a black student wanted to go beyond the 8th grade, he or she had to attend Sacred Heart Catholic School or the private school set up by the Black Baptist Church, Greenville Industrial College, or GIC, as it was commonly known. Over the years, I have developed my little book of morals. This is what Lizzie Coleman say. I have been saving these little quotes and Bible verses for over 40 years. You see this hand? It has 5 fingers. You know why God gave you 5 fingers? God gave you 5 fingers because there are 5 kind of people. And you don't want to forget about anybody. There are black people, brown people, white people, red people, and yellow people. That's very convenient because if you keep your hand with you and count on your fingers, you will never forget anybody. We as black people got to do things as one. One is the most powerful number. That's God's number. We got to do things as a unit, all wrong or all right, but all together. And those was the word of Lizzie Coleman. Let's get into our discussion. Who do we have on the phone?
Freddie Johnson.
Hey, Fred.
Hey, Fred.
How you doing?
How you doing, Brother Melvin?
Yeah, you calling from Memphis, right?
Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah. Tell us, look, what year did you go? You the pastor of Zebedee's Baptist Church. Hmm?
Right here in Memphis.
Yeah. Well, look. I'll say that again.
Zebedee.
Mm-hmm.
The James of Zebedee.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the special name after them.
Mm-hmm. Sons of Zebedee's. Look, what year did you go to Coleman High? What year did you graduate from Coleman High?
63.
In 1963?
63.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Look, tell us about some of your classmates that you remember, that some of your outstanding classmates that had an influence on you.
Well, there is one or two, and basically these were sports figures. One was John Scott.
Peter.
Mm-hmm. We was in class together. We graduated around the same time. And there was another one that was kind of ahead of me. He played for, I think, Baltimore Colts.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Willie Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was some that really played good sports, but was never recognized. I will always say because we was down there in Greenville, Mississippi.
Yeah, and all these great athletes who didn't get an opportunity like there is now to go to pro. Yeah, I know George Scott, he played with the Boston Red Sox for a number of years, and Willie Richardson, he played with the Baltimore Colts. Yeah. Look,
Gloucester Richardson, they call him Split.
Yeah, Gloucester, his brother, cause I know it's 4 of them that went to the pros.
Played with the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. Now, that was a great accomplishment to me, simply because, like I just said, there was many, many more that played sports.
Now, was you also in the class with the musician General Crook?
Yeah, General, we graduated together also.
Yeah.
Yeah. What time it is?
Yes, what time it is. Yeah, General. Because just about all of our fathers down there were ministers. I know Reverend Crook and all. Yeah, it seemed like everybody's father was a minister. Yeah. Look, let me ask you this, and then I'm gonna let Rashad ask you a question. Look, what does Coleman High mean to you when you look back on Coleman High now?
When I look back on Coleman High, I thank God that he played in the Johnson family at that time. Simply because, many blacks at that time wasn't even going to school.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying now is, thank God for my family, my mother, my father, that we were placed in school. At first, we started in a private school.
Mm-hmm. GIC. I can only speak for myself. Mm-hmm. But this school called Julia L. Armstrong. Mm-hmm.
That's in your book, part number 2.
Mm-hmm. The principal is Mr. Hill.
Mm-hmm.
The principal is Mr. Hill.
Right, there he is.
You're right.
Yeah, old Tom Skull. Let me ask Rashad, what question you want to ask Fred?
Well, I want to ask Fred just, how are you doing, my brother? That's sort of, you doing all right, my brother? The question I want to ask you is, was Ralph William with you also?
Yeah, Ralph, we graduated together also. We both went in Air Force, just to kind of get away from Greenville, get away from Mississippi.
Well, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But we had, like I said, I thank God that we was in Greenville, Mississippi at that time because Coleman High really meant a lot to us.
Yes.
If we had for Coleman High School, we wouldn't have no other high school to go to simply because the other high schools in Greenville were basically a white school.
Yeah, totally segregated. And we're going to talk about that a little later on, too, because it's amazing that during that particular time, Coleman High School was a cool school for blacks, for African American, and Greenville High School was totally segregated. And I was mentioning to Rashad, is I never in my life had a chance to even put my feet on that campus. You know. Yeah, when we was coming up. All right, then, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for calling in and listen to the rest of the show because we got quite a few information that we want to talk about.
It's good to hear from you, Fred.
Okay. I'll be listening to the rest of the show with eager ears.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Yeah, so that's our brother, Freddie Johnson, who is minister, pastor at the Zebedee's MB Missionary Baptist Church in Memphis, Tennessee. Now let's talk a little bit more about Coleman High. What when you look back on it now, what do Coleman High mean to you when you look back on it?
Well, when I look back on Coleman High, it was an education institution with plenty of discipline. You know, that most teachers, you know, you didn't run around in the hallways. We had the kind of principals that really had discipline for the kids at that time. Mm-hmm. But since now it seems like they're taking a lot of disciplines out of the homes and the schools. Mm-hmm. So the children these days don't have no outlet to fall back on for someone to help pull them up to the top. Mm-hmm. You know, help them.
Coleman High definitely had that discipline. Okay, who we have on the line? Who do we have on the line?
Hello?
Hello.
Hey.
See, yeah, speak up. Roosevelt. Yeah, get quiet and let's hear that preacher voice.
That sounds like Roosevelt right there.
Yeah. Speak up. Get a little closer and speak up.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got you.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, but talk as loud as you can. Who am I speaking with?
This is Bro Roosevelt. Mm-hmm. How you all?
Fine. Reverend Roosevelt Johnson.
This is Reverend Roosevelt Johnson.
Yeah, you probably have to turn the other radio down. I'm getting back feed.
Cause we hear you.
Okay, I'm not on the radio. I'm on my cell. You want me to?
Well, we hear you though.
Okay. I don't have a radio.
Just tell them we hear. We hear you, Roosevelt.
Get Reggie. See if Reggie now, man. Hold on a minute. I'm surely trying to get through to you.
Okay, who else do you have there with you?
We have with me, I have my good friend, Mr. Brackett, here with me.
Okay.
And,
that's the one.
Okay, hold on. Is Reggie in there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, here he comes. Hold on. Tell him we live. Want to turn this down. Get it so he can hear us, Reggie.
Yeah. All right. Now, I'm speaking with Reverend Roosevelt Johnson, right? Hello.
Reverend Johnson. Do you hear him?
Yeah, this is me. Reggie's cutting it down. Can you hear me better?
Yeah, okay. Who am I speaking with?
This is Reverend Roosevelt Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Mississippi.
Yeah, you're the pastor of what church?
Evergreen Baptist Church here in Greensville.
Mm-hmm. You're still kind of low there, so get as close as you can.
Kind of low now. Okay.
Yeah, get kind of close as you can to the mic so your voice will be higher.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah, but you could go up a little louder.
Is this my phone down or the computer?
I can't hear him now.
Okay. So, Reverend Johnson.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you much better.
Okay.
So, what year did you come out of Coleman High? Tell us a little about that.
69. Come out in 1969.
That was almost the last year, the last graduating year of Coleman High before they turned it into a junior high was 1970.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. What a couple of things I wanted to ask you, and I meant to ask Fred this in the first section, and because Fred would mention a lot of African Americans that went into the military. Did they go into the military to get away from the atmosphere, you know, the racial atmosphere and the lack of opportunities that was in the Mississippi Delta?
Well, that's a good question because that was one of my motives, relocating and migrating to the north, working in the factory in Detroit, trying to escape, you know, racism.
Mm-hmm.
But for the military, we didn't have a choice. It was drafting. They were drafting then, so you didn't have a choice. What you would do, you would receive a letter in the mail saying Uncle Sam wants you, and you had to report. And the majority of the black people, they had an infantry. They give you a rifle and put you in the bushes. But, I was among the last of the draftees as well. So I thought I could escape by going to the military, but I found out racist prejudice was in the military just like it was elsewhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
So actually, we could not escape it.
Now,
I have a.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I have a good friend of mine, you know, with me, brother Ernest Brackett. And I admire him very much because I'm going to let him speak for himself, but I just want to give you a picture of how Mississippi used to be segregated, and then we're going to lead up to how Coleman High became Greenville High, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to let Mr. Brackett come on himself. Get this off, Mr. Brackett. Tell him who you are, Mr. Brackett.
I'm Ernie Brackett.
Yeah.
Tell him where you were born.
I was born 1931, April the 20th.
And you know, you told me about, as far as you can remember your daddy being whooping.
Yeah, my daddy.
Sure.
Yeah, my daddy. He come there to wake him up one morning, and daddy was asleep. And when he come back, daddy went down there, and they whooped him. And I heard it when I was little. And then he put an apple on his head and talking about shooting it off, but the other people begged him not to do it. The white person not to do it.
Now this was on one of the plantations.
That's right.
Which one was it?
My daddy. I don't know which plantation it was because I was little at the time.
And this was
I was
around.
about 8 or 9 years old. I don't know really what plantation it was.
Tell me your birthday, Mr. Brackett.
My birthday, I'm 87 years old. I was born 1931.
Okay,
April the 20th.
You used to tell me about your education level. So,
Yeah, that's right, because we couldn't go to school because we found mules and things. From sun up to sundown for $1 a day. And I didn't know what a pair of shoes was. That's right. Then we couldn't fit nothing. Then if we fit anything, you'll take to come down there and get the black person came up on the living and kill it. And bang, and put a headboard there. That's why I had grown up in the 40s.
And that was around Greenville too, in Washington County.
No, that was in the state of Mississippi.
Tell me about the phase and the wonder.
Yeah, in Charleston, Alabama, where they killed a black person there, and with the face in the woman. And he told them that was before my time. And he told them he drove them down the street, say, hey, what's the other white woman? And he drove one down the street and beat him and killed him. And he told me, said, y'all gonna remember me. And the face came up in the courthouse one. And then they tore it out. They tore the glass one out in the brick wall, and it showed there. It's still there. So welcome to Charleston with see the face and the woman.
Now, let me ask you this question. Do you remember Coleman High in those early days?
No, I didn't know what school was, because I still ain't got no line. I couldn't go to school, because they told my dad I had to plow a mule from sun up to sundown. And what little school it was back in that time, it was closed in a church house. And we went there when we could, but when the man needed us to work, we could not go over there.
So what?
That's why I ain't got no learning today.
So what are your thoughts about the younger generation down in the Mississippi Delta now?
The young people. What you think about the young people?
I think the young people should know, cause they don't know what life was about back in them days. And cause if he had come in them days, he'll see what it is. But see, now they don't know nothing about that. Because I was back there in all of in the late 30s and the 40s. And I know about it because I was out there in it. We didn't know what a decent house was. We stayed where you sleep in the house where you can look down at the ground. And know what a bathroom was. We had to go to the bathroom in the woods.
Okay, then. We'll come back to you before the show is over. A few more things I would like to discuss with you. And a couple more questions I want to ask Reverend Johnson.
Okay, back here.
Yeah. What I want to ask you is, getting back to Coleman High School, who are some of the teachers that really had an influence on you that you can remember?
Some of the teachers that had an influence on me that I can remember. Miss Clarence Hawkins, Brother Clarence Hawkins, Elijah Holmes, Miss Holmes, Shirley Walker.
I can't call
That's
it.
just a few. Let me say my experience with Coleman High.
Go ahead.
I heard you mention earlier that first Afro-American private school. That's where I attend kindergarten and first grade, Greenville Industrial College.
GIC.
Where the black pastors had set up. Not that we was rich or fortunate, but by him being a pastor, the kids could go probably half or maybe free. But after that venture, we went to Armstrong Elementary School, where sixth grade you graduated from elementary school to, I guess, junior high and high was the same thing, but Coleman High. But that was my experience at Coleman. And I can remember when the school decided to integrate. And I really felt good about the situation, hearing about it, because I always believed that if we had level playing field, that we could supersede, some people. All we need was level playing field. We sitting in the room learning the same thing, or the ability to learn. I think that was great. Okay, but I remember sitting on my porch, and the late George Scott, teacher, stopped by and held a conversation with me, and I was expressing how joyous I was because of the integration. He said, "Yeah, Johnson, but we gave up too much."
Gave up too much.
And when he said gave up too much, that means we gave up Coleman High, the foundation of Coleman High School.
Yeah,
I realize and I can concur with what he said now.
Yeah, he's right about that, because one of the things that I would like to look at closely, we kind of had a conversation about it, is when you look at Greenville High at that particular time, we at Coleman High, totally segregated, going all the way back from the 20s all the way up to the 70s. that was educating black people in the Mississippi Delta, where Greenville High was totally 100% segregated. They got most of the state funds and et cetera like that. And then when you look at Greenville High today, and Greenville High probably about 98% black, 98% African Americans over there. And you know, they just had a situation in Richmond, Virginia last week where they had this junior high school that was named after this Confederate general. It used to be all white, and now it's 99% African Americans. And so what they did is they changed the name. They changed the name from this Confederate general to President Obama. And when I look at that situation, and I look at Richmond, I look at Greenville, and when I was checking out the stats of Greenville, and I realized that Greenville is 80% black. 80% black in the town. Now, Richmond have a large black population also, but nothing close to 80%. And then I think one of the things that the black community down in Greenville should really look at closely, and it wouldn't take that much of an effort, but it's very important to save the legacy of Lizzie Coleman and Norman Howard McGee, who I graduated from Coleman High, had no idea who Norman Howard McGee, I'd never heard of him. And I would really misinterpret about who Coleman was named after. But I think this is a situation where we should look closely at naming Greenville High Greenville Lizzie Coleman High. You don't have to get rid of the Greenville, but you should definitely, because that's an African-American school now, you know, and they need that history. They need to make that connection with the black community there now, with the black community that they disenfranchised when they destroyed Coleman High and turned it into a junior high. Right. Now, who else is there with you?
Okay, let me say this before I sign off, please. What you heard earlier about Mr. Brackett, and I respect him highly. You heard his testimony, and I thank him for coming. And I just want to say he's real energetic. He's 87.
Yes.
To get around like a young man and has been through a lot in life. So thank him for sharing that testimony with us. That was just to give you a picture of how Mississippi used to be. The state of Mississippi is better now than what it used to be. We're not all that we should be, but for as racism, we're a little more openly now. So, you know, we don't want people to just look at us in Mississippi, you know, as being ignorant or ex-slaves or what have you. I'm trying to hold up Mississippi because it's still our hometown. It's getting better. And we still got a ways to go, but not just the state of Mississippi, the whole United States now as a whole.
Go ahead, Rashad. I want to say something.
So
go ahead.
And we always hold up Greenville, Mississippi. I don't care where we be at. Even much in the military, you know, always had to be Greenville, Mississippi, or Helton, Mississippi. But by doing so, I didn't know all of my history also. But since I kind of know my history of things, then I can relate better to people that went through the stuff that they're going through in Greenville. As I come to Greenville and I see Greenville looking a different way, I'm not complaining or either condoning how Greenville looked. But as Ishmael had made the statement about is we're 80% blacks. Down, we're 80% African American in Greenville. Then Greenville is supposed to be more unified and not just let the minority of the whites keep you from dividing, keep you from uniting together.
Yeah, and then one comment, because I really want this to be very important piece for the next generation, because I always look at, one generation supposed to pass that knowledge and the betterment to the next generation. And I think about when we was down there coming up, in the way they had segregation set up through Mississippi and throughout the South, where they really economically exploited us by having us working in the field all day for $2 a day for chopping cotton and all of that. But one of the things that I'm looking at real closely, and I think this is what African Americans, not just in Mississippi, but all over the United States, must look at. We must look closely at this Democratic Party from a historical point of view, because we can't get it away from, if we keep fooling ourselves, when we don't want to face the fact that the Democratic Party was a party that fought to keep slavery with the Confederacy and the Confederate flag, and also the Democratic Party was the party of the KKK. And we got to look at the fact that we have allowed them to take the Republican Party, which came into existence to fight slavery and was successful, and now when you look at the Republican Party and Democratic Party, you can't hardly tell the difference. They just switch from one goal to the next. So I think one of the things, African American, not only in Greenville, but all over these United States, if we want to help the next generation of young people, we've got to face the fact of history of what happened with this. And because I always tell people right now, one thing that I would never do, I would never be a part of the Democratic Party. I would never vote Democratic because coming from Mississippi, and I do not want to be part. That's why it's so ironic to see all these people talking about tearing down these Confederate statues and all that kind of stuff. How you gonna tear down these statues and leave the party of the KKK that created the KKK and all of that? See, this is why I think, what African Americans have a chance to, you don't have to be if they keep playing these games of switching the ideology of the Democrats and the Republicans, then we should move as independents.
Yeah, form your own
party. We be independent, and then we can vote any way we want of the best people to provide the best platform that's going to help the African American all over this United States, because not just in Mississippi. Because, see, I think our people as a whole, we can't think like blacks from Alabama, blacks from Mississippi, blacks from California. Hey, all of us are descendants of the slaves of America. And like Lizzie Coleman say, all right, all wrong, it don't matter. But as long as we all together, we got to move as a unit if we care about our young people. And now what I say about the fact that Greenville is 80% African American, like when I was pulling up and I see all these black judges and politicians and mayors and superintendents and all that kind of stuff, the whole essence is that regardless, one thing about black people have never been a people who oppress other races as a unit. That's just not in our history and not our makeup. See, we got to do the best for that area, regardless of the other 20% white or whatever like that. Right. It's always best to prepare the best educational system so the next generation can have the best chance of being successful. See, and the only way we can do that is face our history. And that's why it's so important for them, not to let them take Coleman High from us, take that history from us that go all the way back to the 20th, and then have our descendants sitting over there in Greenville High that's 98% black, as if they done forgot about what they did to us in the 60s by not allowing us to have the opportunity to educate our people.
Right.
But Roosevelt, do you want to respond before you let me know who else you got over there?
Okay. Like you said earlier, history is so important. That's why I thank Mr. Brackett. He took us back in history some days that, he actually lived through. And if our young people, the play you mentioned, It's a New Day. That's what stood out to me, that we all are
descendants of slaves, and we could use that as commonality and work together as a unit. So we have all that in common. But our young people don't know their history. If we don't know our history, then we don't know where we're going. And we're blessed to have Theochi Brown. He's one of my classmates in the school and along with me. So I'm gonna let him speak for himself.
Hey, Theochi, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty
How
good.
you doing, Thee?
All right. I'm doing great. Thank God.
So Theochi, a couple questions for you. You come out what year? 1969?
1969.
Who are some of the teachers over there that really influence you, that you really think about at Coleman High?
Ms. Etta Crawford.
Mm-hmm.
She won the principal after J.P. Maddox.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Clarence Hawkins. Mr. Carl Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
Cleopa Montgomery. Cleopa Wilson, excuse me.
What that other guy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And,
Miss.
Mr. Maddox had a great influence on me in my earlier years, 7th and 8th grade, because the discipline that he showed the whole student and staff had to be respectful to adults and to respect all adults.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes on and on because really we had some of the best teachers in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They love the students. They love what they were doing for the students. You know, it's the same that it went down the way it did go down because segregation, I didn't like it too well myself on a personal basis. Because I hate to use the identity that Coleman High School stood for the state of Mississippi and the whole United States of America.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was a school of champions, excelling in all sports, academic, you name it. And there's no other schools that I know of in the world that did what Coleman High School did for the city of Greenville in the state of Mississippi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay, Rashad, you want to ask Theochi anything?
Yeah, in '69, that was the year that I was went to the military. When you and my my brother Reverend Roosevelt, I was calling him a different name, but y'all was in the military. I was in the military, and I felt the whim of that year in Memphis, Tennessee. I had a uniform on, and I went in this place to get something to eat. This is the first time prejudice had hit me, and they told me that they couldn't serve me, so I asked them, did they have a black cook? And they told me they didn't have a black cook, so I told them they was filthy, and I went out the door. But as I went out the door, I felt this inferiority. White people try to make you have that inferiority complex or feeling on you. So what I did, I just went outside and told God that I didn't want to be nothing like these peoples. And that meant that I didn't want that hate inside of me, but I had learned something from that day. Then as I went in the military, I had more problems in the military at that time with racism. You know, so every base I went to, it wasn't the peoples that was living in the town. It was always the base people, the peoples that was in the military that were with you, that was getting you all of these problems.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And I can understand now that we've got to have unity. See, we can talk unity, and we got these leaders these days that don't. They the 5%ers or what you would call Jim Crow in blackness.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's what's happening with them these days. They are the same individual, but they with the same principle and the same outlet, but they're just using it in a different way under the disguise of blackness.
Mm-hmm.
But they're getting their whole quotas over with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so who else is over there? Because we're gonna move forward. I want to talk.
We got your brother James Johnson, a 62 graduate of Coleman High School.
62.
He knows it all.
Okay.
Hey,
Hello?
Hey, how you doing, Shook?
Hey, Shook.
Look, you come out in 1962, right?
Wow.
Right.
Can you speak up?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Can you talk about some of the great athletes that you know that come out of Coleman High?
Yes, I can, man. Willie Richardson. And there was a lot of great athletes that came out of Coleman. Only a few of them made pro.
Right.
But there were other guys that was good enough to play pro at that time, but just didn't get the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like Charles Jackson and
and A.C. Thomas and guys like that.
Terry Griffin.
They just didn't get the opportunity. Yeah. And there was a lot of other guys after them, man, like Mr. What is on this show, Mr. Powell. One of them did. Elvis, yeah, and then there was a couple more guys. I just can't call their name. They did play pro. Pro.
Look, let me also ask you this: you was on the team with P-Tuck, George Scott, right?
Yep.
Can you talk a little about P-Tuck? What kind of athlete he was?
Oh, he was a great athlete. One of the best ever come out of Coleman. But he had an attitude, man. And his attitude brought him down.
Right. Now he was he could have excelled in all three sports, right? Which one did you thought he was better in?
Probably baseball. Yeah. That's probably one he was better at.
So go ahead.
When he passed, man, wasn't hardly nobody at the funeral. Yeah, because he had his attitude, man. He just turned people off, you know.
Yeah. Now that was totally different with Willie Richardson and Gloucester and all of them, right?
Yeah, he was different from them. That's right, exactly. He was totally different from them. With Willie, Gloucester, Buddy, Charles Howard, Ernest Ray, all of these guys played pro ball.
Can you talk a little? Can you talk a little about Chip's career? Because we were so small, we really didn't get a chance to see Chip play. And I know he played in high school and in the Valley and in the tryouts with the Detroit Pistons. Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, well, Chip did play with the Pistons for about a year. Yeah, but he got cut off the team, man, because he wouldn't go to practice. He wanted to do what he wanted to do,
Now, what kind of basketball player was he in high school? I mean, what position?
Yeah, he was just as good as Willie now. Willie and Slick, he played along with them too. He didn't play football, but he played basketball. And see, Slick, Willie and them they played football and basketball. Slick too, yeah.
And what position did Chip play?
He was a forward. Yeah, he was a forward.
And had some.
He played center sometimes too.
And he had some games.
Oh yeah, he could play.
Yeah, you had to play to be on the team then,
To be on with these guys, that's right, and playing first string.
Look, who was Chip's basketball coach? Was it Mr. Jackson?
Yeah.
Okay, Chip. It's Bird. Did Bird come through?
No, Bird, he didn't come through. He probably went at the house with Mommy. They gonna stop at the house and holler at Mom.
Okay, because I did want to play a clip from him. So I think we're gonna move on. We got about 15 to 20 minutes left in the show. So we want to thank y'all so much for calling in. Lot of information. But any final comments, Shug? Any final comments about Coleman High?
Yeah, Coleman was a real good school, one of the best, probably the best school in this area. Even though they had Greenwood High and all that.
Not to hang up.
Huh? Oh, I'm not gonna hang up. I'm not. Charles said don't hang up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it back to the Reverend.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to let them go so we can move on.
Okay, then a blessing.
All right, so I'm gonna let you go. You guys stay listening to the show. Thanks so much for calling in.
We'll do. And thank you, and thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for nice hearing from you.
Yeah, you too.
All right, then. Talk to you later.
Good work. All right.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Yeah, that was interesting. Some interesting conversation coming out there. There's a couple things that we need to cover. Before we cover that, I'm going to have, before we move into the Coleman report and explain what that is, I'm going to have Rashad read a poem about Greenville. Go ahead.
Message to my hometown. This is a message to my hometown of Greenville, place of my birth where I was raised and lived. Green represents the true nature of Greenville, Mississippi, a fresh green valley, a green village. With freshness of the spring wind, all nature protects those inhabitants within. Green represents the fresh knowledge bestowed upon man after being created by the one Creator's hand. There is such a spiritual beauty in the color green, my spirit jump with joy when it is seen. Green make me give praise to the one true Creator, knowing in my heart he is surely as the greatest. Most our ancestors lay in Greenville, Mississippi, fertile earth, resting for when they would have a new spiritual birth. I am sure their souls would be very disappointed to see all the negative evidence have risen among us. Greenville is the keeper of our ancestors' soul, positioned on earth for a true spiritual awakening to unfold. Remembrance of our ancestors every heart it should touch, but to be here today show you they really loved us. Knowing for us to be here today, the ancestors endured, give our ancestors' history to our children for sure. Deteriorated housing, broke down streets in your neighborhoods should let you know false leaders are up to no good. Politics, religion tell you don't worry in these times, yet do not speak on property or black-on-black crimes. My peoples of Greenville come to help clean up your peoples, even if you may think the poor or homeless are not equal. Green represents life, not death, what my spirit and heart have always truthfully felt. Greenville, Mississippi is my hometown, too. I walked the street there before many of you. It is a shame what I see in my hometown. The beautiful green village is falling down. And don't let our ancestors' descendants continue to suffer. Unite and start helping, loving, caring for each other. Let me tell you, Greenville, before I might forget, Green represents one true Creator, spiritual bliss. Greenville, Mississippi is a really blessed city, but what I have witnessed within is surely a pity. Let us as a people unite under all religions. That way it would create no divisions. Man is hated in his hometown, it is said. I only desire the homeless, poor children to be fed. I pray Greenville will take heed what I have said, and let the spiritual dead bury the dead. And let's rekindle a new light in Greenville, a new day. Do this so the children of Greenville can show the way. Put the life back into Greenville, submitting only to the one true Creator, divine will. Now the divine will be revealed to the peoples, and no one on this planet, Earth, can stop it either. Greenville speak divine truth wherever you may be. Spiritual right for true servant, open your eyes to see. What have been hidden shall be found. Divine truth will be spread even in my hometown. Greenville, there is more I have to say by his will, but his will always come first in my life still. Greenville, I have a very special feeling for you. I seek to have this feeling for me too. Greenville used to be filled with so much life. Now its habits are living with despairs and stripes. And when I looked into my beautiful grandchildren's eyes, I thought a better future for them I would strive. May one true Creator shower blessing on them in life. May they be spiritual as they strive to live right. Greenville, my hometown, peace be upon you. May the one true Creator awaken you to divine truth. And may the one true Creator restore my hometown green. May this village become a spiritual nation to be seen.
Mm-hmm. All right, then. Excellent piece about Greenville, Mississippi. Now, what I want to do real quick, and then we may not have time to play all of our audios that I have, but I must touch on the Coleman report, because the Coleman report is something that affects not only just African American, but the whole public school system. And the Coleman report, what it come about is in 1964 during the Civil Rights Bill, there was an amendment to it about that they had 2 years to research the high school equality of education in the United States of America. And I'm just going to read real quick from the Coleman report. The product of an extensive survey requested by the Civil Rights Act of 1964 this report, which was 749 pages, document the availability of equal education opportunity in the public school system for minority groups, Puerto Ricans, Mexican American, Oriental Americans, American Indians, as compared with opportunities for the majority white group. Also in the report is a discussion of future teachers of minority group children, case studies of school integration, and section on higher education of minorities in school non-enrollment rate. Information relevant to the survey research procedure is appended. Notable among the findings on the survey that Negro students and teachers are largely and unequally segregated from their white counterparts, and that the average minority pupil achieves less and is more affected by the quality of his school than the average white pupil. Now, one of the things that James Coleman, who was the top sociologist at the time in the United States of America, and he's the one that headed up the 749-page report. But one of the fallacies that I thought that came out of the report is that they mentioned that family play a very important part in the education of young people, the family background. But one of the things that I really disagreed with, and I thought that this is something that they did on purpose, is that they come up and they said that African American, or Negroes as they call them, learn better in an atmosphere with white students, that they learn better. And I disagree with that because, number one, especially in the southern states, how can you say that when segregation, when all of the students were segregated, the blacks were going to the public school, were going to their schools, whites going to their schools. So, you know, where your research that backed up. So I thought that they really used this to push the whole concept of integration and busing that got all of that started from the Coleman report. But sometime in the future, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do a whole show on the Coleman report. Now, the next thing I want to deal with is when I was coming up, we was always told that the reason that black people moved from the Republican Party of Lincoln to the Democratic Party was because of the New Deal programs that Franklin D. Roosevelt set up. But now we know that's a fallacy. The reason that blacks moved from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party was what happened in the 1927 flood in the Mississippi Delta that flooded these states down there for 4 months. They were underwater. And I want to read something real quick that explains that, or maybe I just go through it, because what happened is that you had Herbert Hoover, who was the Department of Commerce secretary at the time, and he wanted to be president in 1928. And so when the flood came and they had all of these black people isolated on the levee, forcing them to work under arms, he brought in Robert Moulton, who had succeeded Booker T. Washington at Tuskegee, and they did this report to find out if this was true. So Moulton come to Greenville, he do the study, he come back to Hoover and explained to him the situation was worse than what we thought. So what Hoover told him was, look, if we hold a report back, I'm running for president in 1928, and if I win, I promise you that we're going to take all of this bankrupt land that the flood had caused and break it up among African American farmers in the Delta. And so when Hoover became, so Moulton held back the report. Hoover became president in 1928, and then he went back on his word. And when he went back on his word in 1928, Moulton said, we're going to make you pay. And then in the 1932 election, he's running against the Democrat Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And the top Republicans, headed up by Moulton, took blacks from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party to give Franklin Delano Roosevelt a chance. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt come in, he developed all of these programs, these help programs. That, you know, we're talking about these public work programs and stuff. And we know he ended up being the president for 4 terms. He died in office. Wow. And so that's what stabilized black people becoming part of the Democratic Party. And what I'm saying now, I'm not saying that blacks should just move away from the Democratic Party or move to the next party. I'm saying that we should examine this history close and look at whether or not we have any opportunities left in these 2 parties, in the Republican Party, in the Democratic Party, and then move forward. Right now, we can move forward as independents, you know, and then we can choose which one that will lay out the best platform that's going to help our people, that's going to help the next generation, that's going to create jobs and business and all that kind of. If it's a Democrat, then you don't have to call yourself a Democrat. You can register as an independent, but you can support the ones that support you. You know,
want to give a commitment. Make sure you get a commitment from your people you vote for. You know?
Now, I'm going to try to get one clip in from Dr. Hattie Johnson. It's a little, almost a 3-minute clip. So I'm going to play that now. Our sister, Dr. Hattie Johnson, we're talking about the public school system.
Right.
Well, it's been pretty clear now over the past decade or so that we're moving much more toward a prison industrial complex rather than a public education system. We're building prisons. They're not even building public housing anymore. And students are being trained to become good prisoners, not good workers. Jobs, for the most part, are outsourced to China or other countries, and as such, the poverty level increases. I think it's by design, and I'm very concerned long term what this will mean for public education. And I speak strictly in terms of public education because in large part in the South, especially the Mississippi Delta, public education means black education. So.
Okay, what do you think can be done to improve the public education system?
I believe the system is broken beyond repair. For example, if you have a coffee cup and you accidentally drop it on the floor and the handle falls off, you can take some super glue and stick the handle back on, and even if you don't use it for a coffee cup anymore, you might be able to use it as a planter or something else. It could still have some possible use. But if you drop that same cup on the floor and it shatters into 100 pieces, the only thing you can do is sweep it up and throw it away. The system is so fractured and so broken that the Band-Aids that are being used no longer work. And the children in public education are being blamed for a broken system and are now being considered in large part throwaway children. Even if a student is able to matriculate through the system, in many instances, they cannot afford to go to college because the parents don't have jobs. And if they get to college and are able to complete the college experience, in many instances, they don't have jobs. So we have a system that is only serving as political fodder. The people on the ground are really being left to fend for themselves. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but I do believe that in another 20 years, we could be sitting and having this exact same conversation just as we had it in 1954. We had it again in the early 70s with forced integration, and we're still facing the same situation now. And now there are those who want to literally kill the messenger.
Okay, that was Dr. Hattie Johnson, and we're winding down. We got a little less over a minute to go. I want to get in a quick announcement about the second Nasana Short Play Festival that's coming up. It's the we have 8 excellent plays coming up, and yes, there's the flyer on the screen. And this is July the 27th, 28th, 29th, 2018, Friday and Saturday at 8 o'clock p.m., Sunday at 2 o'clock p.m. at the New American Theater, 1312 North Wilton Place, Hollywood, California, 90028. Special thanks to my in-studio guest, Rashad Wali Muhammad, my brothers on the phone, Reverend Roosevelt Johnson, James Johnson Jr., Reverend Freddie Johnson, the special guest that Reverend Johnson brought in with him. He has some insightful information about the history of Mississippi, etc., like that. I would like to. I'm gonna get a quick 10-second comment from Rashad before I close it out.
Well, remember your ancestors each and every day, so many went to an early grave. As a nation, we must sell our past by revealing the truth, for surely the future belongs to our youth. Don't be afraid to look back on your history and heritage, for many are trying to bury it.
Okay, now please listen to past shows of the Qumran Report by Googling in Qumran Report. Thank you for tuning in to the Qumran Report, and from your hosts, Melvin Ishmael Johnson. May the peace and blessings of the life-giving creative spirit be upon you and upon your family. I leave you with Coleman High School song arranged by Julio Hansen.
All hail to our school, the school we love so well. Loyal we are to our school. We strive to do our best wherever we may go. Loyal we are to our school. Our color of gold means to us ambition. Purple the tie that binds our hearts. And hail to our school, the school we love so well. Always is Coleman High.